Hello and welcome to Norfolk and Suffolk Care Supports in association with ACC Consulting Limited's fifth part in our Emotional Intelligent Leadership collection. This video will focus on self-regulation and is around 11 minutes long.
Hello everybody, I'm Amanda Collinge and today our short video is on self-regulation. And the session is all about enhancing your skills of self-regulation or resilience, and in doing so, take your emotional intelligence to that next level. So I guess the first question is, what is emotional intelligence? So according to Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence, or EI as it's often known, is the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. So according to Daniel, he defines EI, or emotional intelligence, as an array of 5 specific skills or competencies that underpin performance and success. So having defined emotional intelligence, today we're going to focus on self-regulation or building resilience. And that's all about how we manage and express our emotions, how we cope with uncomfortable feelings, and how we enhance our sense of positive feelings and our well-being. So by being more able to self-regulate our emotions, we can start to take more control over our well-being. So for starters, I'd like you just to take a few moments out and just reflect upon maybe the last 24 hours, maybe the last week, maybe the last month. And I'd like you to think about what's gone well for you. Doesn't matter if it's work related or family related. What's made you happy? What's made you smile? So take a few moments out. So how did you get on? Did you think about it was pottering in the garden that made you happy? Perhaps you baked a cake. Perhaps it was a nice chat you had with a friend, or you spent some time with the family. Perhaps it was reading a book, going to the movie. Perhaps it was enjoying a nice hot bubbly bath. Perhaps it was a hobby that you engaged in, maybe crochet, maybe artwork. So why did I ask you to focus on the positive? This is all about brain training. If we focus on something negative, that's likely to bring us down in mood, make us feel less buoyant, less resilient. But what we can do is remind ourselves of everything that is going well. And by focusing on the positive, that can enhance our sense of well-being. With cause and effect in mind, let's look at the CBT model. CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioural Therapy. And CBT works on the basis that our thoughts drive our feelings, and how we feel affects our behaviour. It affects what we do. These cycles can be positive in that they work well for us, they serve us well, and they serve others well. Every one of us has got many helpful CBT patterns. But I'd also say that many of us, most of us, have a number of unhelpful CBT patterns that perhaps don't serve us well, perhaps impact upon our sense of well-being, or perhaps don't serve others well either. So I guess the question is, what can we do about those patterns? The first thing is to recognise and take ownership of those patterns. Do I have any unhelpful or wonky thinking patterns that get in the way of my well-being? That personal self-awareness is really the key to changing those cycles. So if we're wanting to make that change, let's not focus on the thoughts, let's not focus on the feelings, but our starting point should be our behaviour. What is it that we're currently doing about our self-regulation, our resilience, our well-being? And then we can evaluate what we're currently doing and come up with a plan of doing something different, which in turn will create more positive feelings, which in turn will create more helpful thoughts. And then over time, we've eroded away that unhelpful thinking pattern and replaced it with a more positive, helpful pattern of thoughts, feelings, and behaviour. Just spend a couple of moments reading the string of letters that's on the screen. What do you see? How do you read this? Did you read happiness is nowhere? Or did you read happiness is now here? If we're going to manage our emotions, it's key and essential that we recognize them, that we know what those emotions are. So can we differentiate between the different emotions? Can we differentiate between frustration, irritation, and anger? Secondly, can we rate those feelings? Are we aware of the intensity of those feelings? And if we are aware of the intensity of the feelings, we can be aware of how dangerous we are to ourselves or others. So we can keep ourselves in check and we can take action to stop the thermometer rising. We can use the stress bucket as a way of identifying how stressed we are. So if we imagine that we have a bucket inside of us and the daily stresses start to fill up our bucket, by being self-aware, we can check in how full is our stress bucket. Is it so full that it's overflowing? And if it's overflowing, we need to recognize those symptoms, maybe a loss of attention, a lack of focus. So if we recognize how full our bucket is, we can start to take some actions in terms of emptying our bucket, making sure that our well-being is topped up and our stress bucket is empty. So now let's look at some ways to manage those feelings to enhance our sense of well-being. First, it's about keeping calm. It's about taking control. Having a vent buddy, somebody that you can talk to, is really helpful in terms of releasing that pent-up emotion. When we're emotional, we're less able to problem solve. So by talking things through, the emotion can simmer, the heat can be diffused, and then we can move into really looking at what the real problem is and then evaluating, is there a solution? If there is a solution, we can work that through. If there's not, we can just let it go. So get yourself a vent buddy. Exercise can really enhance our sense of well-being. It doesn't need to be the gym. It can be a gentle walk in the park. It can be throwing a ball to the dog. Exercise is helpful because during exercise, we release endorphins, and endorphins make us feel better. Exercise also mops up those unhelpful hormones, fats and sugars that are released during the stress response. Sometimes all you need is a little fresh air. Quite simple, but it's good for our well-being. Being outside, in the garden, in the park, being at one with nature can help our well-being. Knowing your well-being anchors can be helpful. An anchor is something that you know makes you feel better. Grow that list of anchors. Those anchors may be a walk in the park, they may be baking a cake. Take time out to be creative, whether it's art, whether it's colouring. We couldn't talk about well-being without talking about healthy foods. And there's that old saying, healthy body, healthy mind. And if the food is colourful, it's likely to be good for you. So eat those colourful foods. Hobbies can be a really helpful way of distracting ourselves from the day-to-day stresses. So when was the last time you engaged in a hobby? Pick up those old hobbies, maybe start a new hobby. You'll find them enjoyable. Stop procrastinating. Just keep calm and do it. Focus on your achievements, not your failures. At the end of the day, take stock, reward yourself for what you have done rather than what you haven't done. Thought stopping is a really useful way of taking control over those ruminations, those intrusive thoughts that sabotage your headspace. Thought stopping is about recognizing and stopping those thoughts. So one technique is to say, I've clocked you, now I'm going to stop you. Another thought stopping technique is to imagine your worry, your concern in a balloon. Hold on to that balloon and then simply let go of that balloon and let your worry go with it. If you're somebody that brings your worries home with you at the end of the day, perhaps set yourself a timer. Set the timer for 2 minutes. And then at the end of the 2 minutes, stop worrying, stop ruminating. If you can problem solve and solve the issue, then do. If not, do something more enjoyable as a way of distraction. Practice mindfulness. Think about in real time, are you present or is your mind elsewhere? If you're becoming stressed because you've got a difficult conversation to have or a difficult task to have, you can robe and derobe, which is choosing the persona that you want, choosing the persona that will be able to manage that conversation or manage that task at ease. When we're stressed, we tend to do more, when actually we should take time out to relax. We should take time out and maybe just think about our breathing. What we have got for you is a 15-minute video on progressive muscle relaxation. And finally, be kind to yourself. Self-regulation is about giving yourself permission to be kind and sensitive to yourself.